Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach NFL channel. In this video, we're going to have a look at the quarterback position for the 2026 NFL Supercoach season. So quarterback is probably one of the most important positions, if not the most, in Supercoach, just because um, of their ability to score. And as you can see from the top of the list there, Josh Allen is the most expensive person in the game due to his high scoring ability. But also the prices here, you are paying a bit more, but you are getting what you pay for. So I guess the challenge is to go through, try and find some value as always. Um, but I guess obviously Josh Allen is at the top of the list. Um, probably the ideal option at quarterback, given that he can run the ball at an elite level, he can pass the ball at an elite level. He even managed to jag himself a receiving touchdown off of his own pass last year. I think I've already said that in the video this preseason, but it's a pretty freaky sort of skill set that he has. So yeah, obviously the price is the one prohibitive factor. Spending $30 million on one player at the start of the year is tough. He's definitely an upgrade target for the back end of the season, in my opinion. But yeah, probably not going to start with him just because of the price. Matt Stafford at number two. So an elite passer, MVP last year in the league. Um, he doesn't have a lot of rushing upside though, which is, I guess, a big component of the value. Obviously, his price is purely based on his ability to throw the ball and throw it very well. Um, I suppose he doesn't have much change there in terms of the personnel around him, coaches, players alike. Um, but I guess it's again one of those ones you're paying for him at value, and I think there's just better value at the moment. So if you like Stafford, could definitely be a nice pod to upgrade to in the back end of the season, but not one for me to start. Patrick Mahomes, so coming back from his knee injury, I think it was definitely a leg injury of some description. Just drawing a blank there. Um, Potentially means that his mobility is limited. And I guess a big part of his game, even on the passing side of it, is his ability to scramble and, still get a freakish pass away. So I think he might be slightly overpriced for what he's going to produce this season. So for that reason, I've got him as an avoid. Drake May at number four. So actually, probably the next three we can lump together. Drake May, Brock Purdy, Jackson Dart, all very similar in that they do have a decent amount of rushing upside. Um, I guess probably, Brock Purdy has the most attacking weapons around him there at San Francisco with McCaffrey, Evans, Debo, George Kittle. I sort of forgot about it, but Drake May, has got an improving situation with AJ Brown coming across. Um, Pretty solid supporting cast around him. And then Jackson Dart hopefully gets Malik Neighbours back. Isaiah Lakely coming across could be a useful target. And then obviously his mate Cam Scatterberg back from injury. So again, if you're looking for a bit of a pod, don't hate it. But again, you're probably getting them at value. You want to try and find some underpriced options. Trevor Lawrence at number seven. So he's on his ascension to what he was um, promised to be when he was drafted number one with an absolute bullet a few years back. The Jacksonville offense is improving. Um, so yeah, this he could take another step up. Potential MVP candidate this year. I guess it just means that I don't know if there's a lot of value in the price. His rushing upside is maybe a step below the ones above. The passing is obviously a bit better, but maybe not quite to a Stafford or Mahomes level just yet. Um, so he's probably one I would miss out on. Jacoby Brissett, so had a great season last year, but will be under the pump to perform there at Arizona. Unfortunately, not a lot of support around him. They've brought in Jeremiah Love, the running back, so they may want to establish the run a bit more, which might limit his passing upside. Just yeah, probably not one that I'm interested in. Jalen Hurts, if anyone's watched this channel for a while, you know Jalen Hurts is my guy. Um, the rushing upside is there. He's one of the elite rushers. That tush push is like a cheat code in terms of him getting touchdowns. Probably just, the passing isn't elite. And he has lost AJ Brown, who was, a mate of his from college days. They had a great connection. Something fell out last year. To be fair, I think it was more the offensive coordinator than anything else. So slightly less weaponry in the passing game, which may impact him. Um, but yeah, I think he's probably number three on my list in terms of value starts. So if you want to go away from the two most popular options, which we'll talk about in a minute, at least I think they're two of the most popular options. Um, yeah, I like Jalen Hurts as a sneaky differential. Dak Prescott, so another sort of elite throwing quarterback, but not the rushing upside. Caleb Williams and Justin Herbert, probably, two very similar profiles in that, they are in very high octane offences. At least we believe so with the Chargers in the case of Mike McDaniel coming across. Ben Johnson, the head coach at Chicago, is proven. Um, yeah, these guys probably got 4 and 5 on the list in terms of value starts for the season. I think there's a bit of meat on the bone there, but yeah, not enough for me to consider starting them at this point. Bo Nix, I've probably got in that tier with Drake May, Jackson Dart in particular, in terms of his rushing ability and passing game. Um, so yeah, take that as you will. Jared Goff is probably just another pocket passer like a Stafford type, so not interested in that. Um, Daniel Jones, so had a great start to the season last year, was a very popular mid-price quarterback option. I think he showed that getting out of a dysfunctional organisation like the Giants that he was at and getting across to Indianapolis, I should say, sorry, definitely helped with that. But yeah, he's probably closer to true value at this point, so not that interested. Joe Burrow. So I guess out of the pocket passes that we refer to, he's probably the best value at 22 million. Obviously, it has great options there with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, even Chase Brown as a viable option there to pass to, um, but just doesn't have the rushing upside that we're looking for. Which then brings us to, I guess, the two highlighted there. They're highlighted because they're in my team currently, and I can't see them moving out anytime soon. Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. So Lamar's probably proven it over a longer period of time that elite rushing, maybe the step below elite passing, but definitely a very good passer. Jaden Daniels, I think, profiles similarly. He's only had one real season in the league where he absolutely went off. Spent last year injured, hence the discounted price. And same for Lamar. He played last season, but played injured the whole time. So um, yeah, so I've got these guys locked in. I think, I've got these guys as, top three quarterbacks alongside Josh Allen at the end of the season. And so at a $9 million discount to Josh Allen, I think it's a no brainer to start both of them. You can put one in the QB spot, one in your flex, so they can both play every week. The one little wrinkle is that Jaden Daniels has quite an early buy, so I think it's week 6. I don't know, excuse me, if we're going to have a cheap playing quarterback by that point, which we'll talk about in a minute with the cheapies. So you may need to have a bit of a plan around whether you're going to upgrade him at that point, or if yeah, we can find someone that can do a serviceable job for a week somehow. um, in between them, you've got Mac Jones. He's the backup there at San Fran. So, an injury to Brock Purdy, he would be relevant, but even then, he's very expensive. So, yeah, you wouldn't be bringing him in that case. Baker Mayfield, Tyler Shock, Jordan Love, all starting quarterbacks. Again, none of them offer the elite rushing of the two guys just above them. Um, and, you know, I guess maybe, the passing for Mayfield and Love is on par with those guys, but again, no rushing there. Tyler Shock, he's definitely on the way up, but he made most of his money last year. Justin Fields is a backup. Stroud, Darnold, Rodgers are all starters that probably fairly priced. Kyler Murray will be an interesting one. He does have a bit of rushing upside. Finally has, I guess, a decent attacking weapon in Justin Jefferson to throw to, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Um, so there is a bit of value there, but I think I'd prefer Jaden Daniels to Kyler Murray in that sense. Bryce Young is a starter, but not the best team, so probably not worth worrying about. And then we've got a bunch of backups here, so we'll skip down. Geno Smith is the starter. I think Tua is going to get the start, but I think they're definitely on the decline. Malik Willis is an interesting one. The $15 million price tag is interesting. I think if you wanted to, just take a mid-price option, if you're looking for someone who could make, say, $10 million in that QB spot, but still be a serviceable starter, I think Malik Willis is the option. Was the backup at, I think it was Green Bay last year, so it has been for a few years. And Green Bay has got a reputation for having some pretty good backups when they finally get their chance to ascend. I guess the downside with Miami is there's not a lot of wide receiver talent around to throw to, so that may limit his ceiling. But I think there's definite value there. It's just whether you can afford to go up to like a Jaden Daniels. I would probably still do that. Shador could get the start at Cleveland. It's a bit cloudy there. We're not too sure. Um, Kirk Cousins looks like he is going to get the start at the Raiders. Um, so be interesting to see how he goes. They've definitely brought in a few sort of attacking pieces, mostly to support their rookie quarterback, who we'll talk about in a minute. But I think it's Cousins' job to start the season. So there could be a little bit of value there if you're, chasing it. Um, yeah, after that, more sort of backup options. I guess the intriguing one is Deshaun Watson. When he was younger, he was somewhat or NFL fantasy relevant, but a few years of injuries and suspensions, sort of seen him slide down the totem pole a bit. Um, and yeah, initially I thought he was a viable option as a starter, but I'm just not convinced he's going to hold the job down for that long. A couple of bad games, they might flick the Shador. There might be, a bit of a mess there at the Cleveland Browns in terms of their quarterback, which is par for the course for them, to be fair. So I'm going away from Deshaun, um, unless like there's some indication that he is nailed on starter week one, in which case then I do like the opportunity to make some money there. But I guess the good thing about Supercoach too is you do get a couple of looks. The prices don't change until their third game. So yeah, we can have a couple of looks if we need to. We can, make a couple of trades to make that happen. I think. Um, so yeah, some more sort of backups here until we get to the $5 million mark, and Fernando Mendoza. Admittedly, I guess I say until we get to this point, they're all backups after this. But the $5 million represents the rookie price tag. So Mendoza being number one in the draft this year. Um, I think he's the one that's most likely to get a run at some time this season. Um, but the reasoning for bringing him in as well is if there is one of the cheaper options, and we'll talk about a couple in a minute, that does get up, well, it's easier to go down to get one of them than it is to, have a $4 million option on the bench and then try to find that million to get up to Mendoza, for example. So I've just got him on my bench. I'm not expecting him to play, um, even to I don't think he'll be on field in time for Jaden Daniels bye in week 6. Um, but I think I'm going to just work that out at that point. There could be an injury. Anything can happen in football. But after that, you got Ty Simpson was a round one draftee, but he's mostly there to sit behind Stafford and learn. So I wouldn't expect him to start this year. Um, I think um, Zach Wilson might be the second string at New Orleans, but he's famously struggled at the level. Carson Beck seems to be the popular one at the moment, albeit they do have Brissett as the starter and they do have Gardner Minshew there. But a few people seem to think that if the Cardinals struggle, as everyone's suggesting they will, that he might get an opportunity at the back end of the season. But again, at 4.15, I'd rather go down for Mendoza and bank 850 than potentially have to find it if I haven't got it at the time. Um, and then a couple of deep cuts, perhaps, if they're even in the game. Cade Klubnik sounds like he is potentially the future prospect there at the Jets, so he might get some game time this year, particularly if Gino doesn't go well to start. I think Milrow might be QB2 behind Darnold there at the Seahawks, which is not the worst place to be. Um, bit of hype around Jack Strand. Again, there's not a lot of great options there at Atlanta, so he's somewhat come from the clouds as a left field. Maybe gets a go at some point. Um, and then Jalen Daniels was one I just saw a little bit on, but currently QB4 might not even make the squad. So that's quarterback. Um, Again, I think it's the two sort of more expensive options. Like again, I like these two. If you like someone else, throw them in. It's a bit of fun at the end of the day. And then, they're for the first time in the time that I've played the game anyway, it doesn't look like there's a lot of cheapies in the position. So, as I said, I like just parking Mendoza there and waiting to see at this stage. But again, there's a few weeks still until the season starts, or 2 weeks, 16 days to be precise. So at the time of recording, that is. So anything can happen. But I think we'll wrap this one up there. As always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, feel free to add them below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NFL content. Subscribe for all the fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.